Franchthi Cave. A Frankhthi Cave is a cave overlooking the Argolic Gulf opposite the village of Koilada in southeastern Argolis, Greece. The cave was occupied from the Upper Paleolithic circa 38,000 BCE through the Mesolithic and Neolithic periods, with occasional short episodes of apparent abandonment. Last occupied around 3000 BCE. It is one of the very few settlements in the world that shows nearly continuous human occupation for such an extended period of time, and is one of the most thoroughly studied sites from the Stone Age in southeastern Europe. Excavation history. Professor T.W. Jacobson, Professor of Classical Archaeology and Classical Studies at Indiana University, began excavations at Franchthi Cave in 1967. The dig was only intended to temporarily occupy Jacobson and his fellow researcher M. H. Jameson for one short season while they waited for land use issues to be resolved at a nearby site. But it soon became clear that Franchthi Cave was more important than they had anticipated. The excavation, overseen by Jacobson, would continue for nearly a decade, ending in 1976. Since then, numerous scholars have examined the extensive finds. Paleolithic. During much of its history, Frankhthi was significantly further from the coastline than it is today, due to lower sea levels that have since risen around 400 feet. Thus, its inhabitants looked out on a coastal plain that was slowly submerged over the course of their occupation. During the Upper Paleolithic, Franchthi Cave was seasonally occupied by a small group, probably in the range of 25 to 30 people, who mainly hunted wild ass and red deer, carrying a stone toolkit of flint bladelets and scrapers. Its use as a campsite increased considerably after the last glacial maximum, with occasional hiatus in the sequence of occupation. Obsidian from the island of Melos appears at Frankhthi as early as 15,000 years ago, offering the earliest evidence of seafaring and navigational skills by anatomically modern humans in Greece. Mesolithic. An apparent break in the occupation of Franchthi Cave occurred during the Younger Dryas climate cooling event, after which a Mesolithic culture appeared as the world settled into the warm Holocene climate that continues today. The Mesolithic is represented by only a few sites in Greece, and, like Frankhthi, nearly all of them are close to the coast. They did not rely as heavily on big game as the predecessors, probably due to the changing climate and environment. Instead, they broadened the resource base to include a variety of small game, wild plants, fish and mollusks. The evidence of increased fish bones and increased use of obsidian from Melos at Frankhthi during this period shows they were accomplished seafarers. There is a notable stretch spanning several hundred years when tuna became a major part of the diet at Franchthi Cave, implying deep-sea fishing. It has also been suggested that the tuna could have been caught by placing nets near the shore. A few graves have been found buried in the cave during the Mesolithic that suggest care for the dead. Neolithic. The cave also contains some of the earliest evidence for agriculture in Greece. Around 7000 BCE, the remains of domesticated plants and animals are found among the usual wild plant and animal species hunted and gathered during the Mesolithic, suggesting that either the inhabitants of Frankhthi had begun to practice agriculture or were trading for seeds and meat with the Neolithic people, who had recently arrived from the Near East. There has been some debate about whether agriculture developed locally in Greece or was introduced by colonists. It is now generally believed that emigrants from the pre-pottery Neolithic B cultures of the Near East arrived by boat at the beginning of the 7th millennium BCE to settle Greece, introducing agriculture. For some time, the evidence from Frankhthi was used as an example in support of locally developed agriculture. but more detailed study of the remains has demonstrated that the evidence supports the foreign introduction of domesticated plants and animals. The Mesolithic hunter-gatherers of Greece rapidly adopted the methods introduced to them by Neolithic colonists, including at Franchthi Cave. During the Neolithic, main occupancy of the cave shifted to an area outside the entrance, called the Paralia, where terracing walls for growing crops were built. It is believed the inhabitants also occupied a village below the Paralia, which is now submerged beneath the sea. Several anthropomorphic and zoomorphic figurines have been recovered at Frankhthi from the Neolithic era, and it has been suggested that the site may have served as a workshop for making cockle shell beads to trade with inland communities during the early Neolithic. The cave and the Paralia were abandoned around 3000 BCE. Bibliography. Farrant, William R. 1999. Depositional History of Franchthi Cave, Sediments, Stratigraphy, and Chronology. Fascicle 12 in the series Excavations at Franchthi Cave, Greece. Bloomington, Indiana, Indiana University Press. ISBN 0253213142. OCLC number 41503459. Galanadou, Nina and Perlis, Catherine. 2003. The Greek Mesolithic, Problems and Perspectives, London. The British School at Athens. Perlis, Catherine. 2001. The Early Neolithic in Greece. Cambridge University Press.